My dog Toby, and my name is Eric Stewart. I'm with Code Green Community. For the past several years, I've been converting my front yard into a permaculture food forest. I've been adding layers and layers of organic material, getting kids involved in the neighborhood, getting my neighbors involved, and trying to show how permaculture can be done, and we can create edible food forest in our suburban lots. On a tenth of an acre, I've been producing a couple hundred pounds of food that I've been selling to local neighbors and on a co-op. I've been trying to convert and teach gardening to dozens of people as well. Let's take a tour of my permaculture garden. For the past several years, I've been adding a lot of organic material and creating a sheet mulch in my front yard. I planted from seed this moringa tree. Moringa tree is a beautiful tree. It's got highly edible leaves, and it creates these seed pods that are full of seeds. Now these seeds are full of oil. You can use them for a biofuel. You can also use them as a feedstock for feeding animals. They also are really good if you crunch them up and powder them, be used as a water treatment. You can actually clean water from the seeds of the moringa tree. They call them a drumstick because they create these pods that look like little drumsticks. All around me is sweet potatoes. I let it vine out and cover up the area to kind of make the soil moist throughout the summertime and create some ground cover. In the back behind me I have blueberries and blackberries, cranberry hibiscus. I have a peach tree and an orange tree and some pepper plants all scattered around throughout the area. This is my papaya tree. I planted this from seed. It took over, this is about a 7-month-old tree, and I believe it's a male tree or possibly a female. I'm not so sure how to tell the difference at this point. I know if you look at the fruit where they start to flower, but it hasn't been flowering, so I can't tell at the moment. But directly behind it is a Jamaican cherry tree, where it's been producing hundreds and hundreds of these berries. It tastes almost like a cotton candy. It's absolutely delicious. Fresh fruit right in your front yard. This is a cranberry hibiscus plant. The storms have kind of been doing a number on it. It's got this is also an edible plant. You can eat the leaves. It tastes sort of like a cranberry tart flavor. And they're highly nutritious. They're high in vitamin C, and they're really tasty. They grow great in salads, and it's prolific. It just grows and grows and takes over a huge area. This is a good annual plant that will reseed itself and keep growing the same area. I've been selling these leaves on the co-op market that I formed as well. I'll bag them up and put them in bags and sell them to local people in the area. It's been one of my top sellers. Right here is my lemon tree. I have a small lemon tree that I planted, and right directly next to it is a cotton plant. I'm actually growing cotton. If I wanted to, I could grow a small field of this and make my own shirts if I wanted to. This is my front yard pond. I haven't really been taking very good care of it, just been letting it overgrow. There's a lot of different plants inside the pond itself, but there's also tilapia in the pond. I'm growing a fresh fish right in my front yard out of a pond that I created myself over a couple of months ago. Almost a year ago, actually. I thought this was really funny. I've been kind of letting this area go, And I have a pumpkin that has been growing, and it's actually in one of my containers and growing out of the container. I thought that was hilarious, and I wanted to share it with y'all. Right next to here, along my edge of my fence line, I have been creating a moringa forest. I have tons and tons of moringa, and I harvest it and sell it on the co-op market. I make sure to clip the top of it so it coppices, and it creates more and more bushier effect. And it's been a great source of food for me. Eventually, if I get rabbits or chickens, this will be one way of me feeding and lowering the cost of the chickens and rabbits. This is one of my fruit trees in the backyard. This is a fig. It's loaded with dozens and dozens of figs, and it's been a great producer. I believe the variety that I have here is brown turkey, and it's a delicious fig. I love it during the summertime when it produces. I've also been kind of letting go some of the weeds in the back. This is Spanish needle. Not a lot of people know this, but Spanish needle is the #2 flower in the state of Florida for pollinators. So if you can kind of see, there's tons and tons of bees all around these flowers. So when people come to my house, they kind of say, oh man, it's a weed fest. But really, I'm growing the weeds to bring in pollinators and allow them to do their work. So I'm trying to use permaculture and use what I have and not think that everything and all the weeds are bad necessarily. Weeds can be good. And also the Spanish needle is highly edible, highly nutritious. I've even heard from John Starnes that if you collect enough of the seeds themselves, you can brew beer out of the seeds. They have enough carbohydrates to do that. One of the beautiful things about permaculture, it's prolific. I didn't even plant this sweet potato. It came up from last year. It's been taking over my backyard and my next door neighbor's backyard. I didn't mean to, but he passed away recently and he has been around. So the person that owns the property right now is not around either. So it's just been taken over, and it's been taking care of the weeds for them. There's not as many weeds in his yard because of the sweet potato cover crop. This plant next to me is called chaya. It's also a great pollinating plant. It produces hundreds and thousands of these flowers, and its leaves are highly edible. You can eat the leaves. It's high in protein, high in vitamins. It's a South American perennial plant that grows and grows abundantly. This plant must be 10 feet tall, and it's just loaded with dragonflies and bees and butterflies. It's very beautiful and a plant that just wants to give and give and give. That's what I love about permaculture. It's all about giving. I mean, all the plants that I grow here, when I just give them a little bit of love, they give so much back. My backyard nursery. Basically, I just been starting up plants in pots and planting them up and selling to local people. I try and start up all the plants that I'm growing here locally and get them out to as many people as I can. So I've got chaya, quinoa, cranberry hibiscus, moringa, all sorts of plants that people can use. Here you can see where I created a guild that I'm playing around with. In permaculture, we use guilds, which are different types of plants working together. So in here I have cowpea leaves, cowpeas, which is also known as black-eyed peas, okra, and I also have peanuts as an undercrop. Right next to it, I have a plant called quinoa. If you look at the leaves, it kind of looks like marijuana. It's in the same family, but it doesn't have any of the potency. It's known for its edible leaves. Also, just like cannabis, it can be used for a lot of industrial purposes. Its stalk can be used as fiber. It can be made into paper and different products as well using industrial processes. Right next to it, I have another Jamaican cherry tree that's just loaded with cherries. Right here I have sugar cane. If I ever want to make my own sugar, I can produce that. I have a beauty berry. This is a great plant to have in your garden. The native people, they would take the leaves and use it as a mosquito repellent. So that's what I do usually. If I'm out here walking my dog, I'll grab a couple leaves and I'll just put it all on my skin. And that'll help take care of any mosquitoes. I also put it on my dog to help get rid of mosquitoes on him. This is a plant called canna. It's produces a beautiful red flower, and it's highly useful if you want biomass. You can grow this and it produces a lot of broad leaves. Worst case scenario, if you ever wanted to, good paper toilet right here. Toilet paper. Inside of this area, I have a whole bunch of herbs. There's lemongrass and Thai basil and other sorts of herbs that I use for my kitchen garden. This is another plant that I'm growing. It's a great plant for composting. It produces a lot of leaves and biomass. It's called Bolivian sunflower. It creates these big, beautiful sunflowers, and it produces twice a year. It's a great, useful plant, but it's not edible. It can be eaten by livestock. Rabbits and chickens love its leaves, so it could be used as a feed for livestock at a farm, or possibly a small urban farm like mine. Well, as you can see, Toby is really tuckered out from our walk around the garden. Thank you very much for taking a tour with me around my Suburban Oasis garden. I started this project in 2008 along with the website Code Green Community, because I wanted to find the truth, and I wanted to create a community that worked on creating sustainable communities in the Tampa Bay area. And when I was looking for the truth, I found it. And the truth is, we live in a food desert. There's less than a handful of local farms in the area around Tampa Bay that are feeding, that could feed 2 million people. There's not enough farms. And we live in an area where most of our food gets exported to other areas. We grow a lot of things for export, such as tomatoes or strawberries or blueberries, and they go to other parts of the country. Our food system relies on bringing and trucking in food from thousands of miles. And I really began to understand in 2008 that food security is a real issue. We have less than 3 days of food available in any of our grocery stores. So if there was ever a huge radical event that happened, such as an oil spike or the banks collapsing like they almost did in 2008, we would face a real issue with food. It would occur really quickly, and we don't have the skills and the capability of feeding all the people in the Tampa Bay area if something were bad to happen. So it's about creating food resilience, and to me, having a garden outside my house is food resilience. I'm producing something and I'm spreading it and I'm putting it out there into the community. I've tried to teach as many people as I can. I've tried to start as many community gardens up as I can to introduce people to the idea of growing food in their communities. We've also been at war for over 11 years, and I think it's really time for us to start up a victory garden movement. We can conserve and become resourceful and start to use our energy and our materials to produce a culture that doesn't need oil as much. If we don't need oil, we don't need to send people overseas into military adventures to get oil. So it's a reoccurring thing. Until we change culture to lessen our need for oil, we're going to constantly need to send our troops overseas to get new oil. So I just want all of the people in America to wake up and to really look at their yards and their communities and think about permaculture. Think about changing your culture and making it a more permanent culture. I really implore everyone to go onto codegreencommunity.com and learn about permaculture. I try and list hundreds and hundreds of videos. I blog about permaculture, and I try and talk about it as much as possible with my YouTubes. I try and connect all the different dots in permaculture. There's different domains. It's not just about gardening, it's about economics. It's about culture and arts and music and food and health and spirituality. We have a deep position within this community of life. We're not superior to everything else on this planet. We need to understand that we're deeply embedded within nature. And so to me, having a garden full of food and insects and living community around my house makes me more embedded within nature, and I'm constantly aware of all the different changes in seasons, and how when I start a garden seed, how it grows, and how I can understand that when I put work into it and I'm resourceful, I can make a really bountiful, abundant garden. And that's what I think permaculture is all about. It's about creating abundance. Abundance in our communities, abundance of food, abundance of water, abundance of plants, abundance of animals, abundance of trees. It's all about that. It's about creating capital too. It's about creating money. I create money out of my garden. I grow food and I sell it on a co-op. It's an online market where a bunch of gardeners and I have been selling our vegetables and our fruits and cottage food that we've been making out of our homes. So it's also about creating social capital. I'm meeting a whole bunch of people in my community, and we're all interacting and talking, and we're sharing stuff. And so it's about making social capital. It's also about making living capital. You know, my nursery, that's a bank. That's a bank of plants that I can go to anytime. So I have seeds stored right next to my bed. So I have a bank of life that I can share and spread and be a capitalist with. We live in a capitalistic society, so I think we should use capitalism while it's here to create the world that we want to create. And to me, I'm trying to create a world that's more abundant, it's more safe for people. It's all about creating a world for the kids. You know, I think right now, my generation has it really tough. We've been inheriting a big mess, and it's going to be up to us to challenge ourselves and to push ourselves to make a difference in our community. And if we don't, we're going to have to suffer the consequences of it. But I think life is a garden, and we should all dig it. I think we have this awesome opportunity to transform everything if we wanted to. I mean, it's just all about how we apply ourselves and what we really care about. And to me, I care about making an abundant community, and I want to make abundance for everyone. And I hope that everyone loves my garden and they checks out my website and my YouTube. And thank you very much. Bye.